Pardon me if this is new to me because normally I'm on that side of the camera. But today, I and many of my colleagues are called to be on this side of the camera. And it is one of the scariest moments of my life and in my career to know that a fellow journalist, a top journalist, an award-winning journalist, a 3-time Emmy award-winning journalist, the only journalist who was in the courtroom during the Derek Chauvin trial. So she is a vetted journalist whose credentials are impeccable, is right now sitting in federal custody for doing her duty. She's in custody for doing what you all are doing right at this very moment. I want y'all to hear that. She's in custody for doing what you're doing right now. So if you think for one moment that you are protected, this is the wake-up call to let us know that these don't stop bullets. They don't stop arrest. They don't stop the death threats that we get for doing our job. These don't do a damn thing. And I need all of us to be awake to that fact that Georgia Fort, because I haven't even said her name yet, that Georgia Fort is in federal custody for doing her job. And if we leave here with anything today, let's leave here making sure that the main thing stays the main thing. Journalism is under attack.
Yeah.
The First Amendment is under attack.
Yeah.
And democracy is crumbling.
Yep.
Yes.
If we allow this to happen, if we allow this to happen, if we don't speak up in the loudest voice, all of our so-called freedoms, our illusion of freedom goes away. So I know I didn't introduce myself when I started. My name's Harry Colbert Jr. I am the Vice President for the Center of Broadcast Journalism and Power 104.7. Georgia Fort is our president of the Center of Broadcast Journalism, and she has her own entity, Black Press and Georgia Fort. With that being said, I'm first going to ask a longtime activist, a past president of the NAACP, to speak. We're going to have several members of the media that are going to come and speak to you, and then a couple of members of Georgia's family would like to make brief statements.
Grace and peace, everyone. Again, my name is Leslie E. Redmond, and I cannot tell you how outraged I am to be standing in this same place again. For many of us, we still here in 2020 after the murder of Brother George Floyd. We stayed here too many times to count, and we said then that it was a state of emergency. I want you all to know that the emergency is still ongoing. When you have journalists being arrested for reporting, when you have truth tellers being held captive, we are under a state of emergency. And you're gonna have to ask yourself, what are you doing right now? We talk about what we would have done if we were around when slavery was going on and the Underground Railroad. Well, this is it right now. We are under attack. Georgia's family is here. And I want to tell you all that I was talking to Sister Georgia, and she was afraid of being arrested. And I told her, they're not gonna arrest journalists. They tried that with Don Lemon, it didn't work. And now Don Lemon and Georgia Fort are under arrest. We are under attack. We are being targeted, and it's not just individuals. Our democracy is under attack. Our Constitution is under attack. This is not a joke, this is not a drill. And I want for everybody that's watching across the nation to know that you are next. Minnesota is holding the line, and we can't hold it by ourselves. This is not a black people or white people or a religion or age or any of these things. We are fighting for human rights. We are fighting for our humanity and our democracy, and nobody fought harder for that than Georgia. She is the ultimate professional. She is so intentional, but we saw after Alex was killed on Saturday, journalists were being tear gassed. King Demetrius, who's going to speak to you, has a boot on right now. They are not paying attention to passes, badges, and they're not paying attention to our democracy and our Constitution. And I want to tell y'all, we have to stand for something or fall for anything. This is a state of emergency, and I'm wondering where our leadership is. Where is Governor Walz? Where is Mayor Fry? Where are all of our representatives? And if you want to run for office and you're not standing with community, you don't have a shot. I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm tired of standing up here. And Georgia is a wife. She is a mother. She's a business owner. She's a journalist. She should not be in jail right now. And everybody should be outraged about that. This does not make any sense. This is real trauma. This is not a joke. Trump, this is not a show. This is not a game. This is people's real life. And I want everybody, the world is watching Minnesota once again. Once again, we're under the microscope because we're not being protected and we can't get it right. And it's not on the community. And nothing's burnt to the ground. Y'all always making excuses. Y'all want to act like this is us against them. No, we're under attack. And the people have not even begun to fight back. We can't even record. We can't even stand. We can't even live. People can't leave their houses. People are losing their jobs. People are afraid. And Georgia had the courage to record it. And now she's arrested. Where is our constitutional rights? We are under attack, and you all better wake up before it's too late to wake up. It's not a joke. It's not a drill. When journalists are getting arrested, you all better be afraid. This is a state of emergency. And not the same one from 2020. This is a different state of emergency. This is like any of us could get taken at any moment. They're coming for all of us. Anybody who has the courage to stand up and speak out. And to my believers, where is the faith community at? You all let Nakima and Chantel and William and all these people put their lives on the line saying the hypocrisy of a pastor also being the head of ICE in St. Paul. If Jesus was here, he would be flipping tables, so why aren't y'all? This is a different day. This is a different state of emergency, and none of us are safe. Journalists, none of y'all are safe. White people, black people, indigenous, Asian, nobody is safe. Georgia Ford, of all people, I would have never thought Georgia Ford would be arrested right now. She has kids, she has a husband, she has a family. This is not a drill or a joke. I'm gonna ask Georgia's daughter to introduce herself and this her husband and just say a couple words.
Hello, my name is Zaraya Hammonds, and I'm sorry if I stutter or if I say anything too fast. This is my first time ever doing anything like this. Georgia Fort is my mom, and we are here to call for her immediate release. My mom has been a documenter and a member of the press for as long as I can remember being alive, for 17 years. My mom is being arrested for documenting what happened at City Church. And this is wrong. This goes against her First Amendment right as a journalist, and it's being challenged today. She is not a protester. She is not an activist. She is a mom working to provide for her children through the only way she knows how. Documenting and sharing stories of the community and truth of what's happening here every day in our state. This moment of history just doesn't affect me. It also affects my little sisters who had to wake up and comprehend at the ages of 7 and 8 why their mom had to be arrested today. My 7 and 8-year-old sister woke up today without a mom. My father woke up today without his wife. I'm demanding that my mom gets released. The separation of families will never be right. Thank you.
God bless you. Did you speak? Oh, I apologize.
I just want to, I'm going to keep it brief and short. I'm Ceriso Fort. I'm the husband of Georgia Fort. I'm going to keep it, like I said, brief and short. I really want to thank you all for coming out. And I want y'all to have courage and continue doing what y'all doing, because I watch Georgia. I support her. You know, behind the scenes, a lot of stuff I'm on, you know, I'm there, I'm watching, I'm supporting her. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't understand what can go down to the point where, you know, you gotta arrest a journalist for doing their job. You know, she's just doing her work. She's not harming nobody, not hurting nobody. I mean, I know some individuals that hurt people that, you know, I don't understand that. You know, when it's that way, I understand, right? When there's she's not harming no one. So I really, it hurts, you know what I'm saying? As I'm pulling off to take my 7 to 8 year old, my daughter, we driving, I'm getting stopped, 10 cars, come. I didn't want them to see this. They would sleep earlier. Now they got to see this. Oh man, that wasn't cool, you know? So it's like understanding that what we up against right now is really affecting the human rights and us as people. We got to stand strong. We got to continue to stay prayed up right now. In this time and era right now, what we're dealing with, we got to stay prayed up. And I want to, like I said once again, man, thank you all for coming out, and thank you all that's out there that's supportive of what we're doing. Thank you.
God bless you, brother. God bless you.
Okay, the next person that I want to bring is the current president of the National Association of Black Journalists, Minnesota, Cherie Curry.
Yeah. Also, thank you all for coming out. Cherie Curry, S-H-E-R-E-E, Curry, C-U-R-R-Y. I am co-president of the National Association of Black Journalists, Minnesota chapter, and Georgia Fort is one of our vice presidents of this chapter, and we demand the immediate release of her and for all charges to be dropped. She, as Harry had said earlier, she is an award-winning journalist. She has covered demonstrations throughout her career, including the protests that erupted after the murder of George Floyd. The First Amendment protects the press and enables journalists to be able to do their jobs, to be able to collect, publish, and disseminate information that is important for all of our readers, our listeners, our viewers to understand what's going on. And Georgia was doing her job. She had boots on the ground. It is very important that people like her, independent journalists especially, be protected. They do not have the same type of backing as an independent journalist as someone would who works for a media outlet. So we are outraged for this and for her family, and I hope all of you will feel the same who hears what happens to her and know that if it is about attacking a journalist, it is attacking all of us as citizens. Thank you.
Elisa? And I apologize because I'm going to mispronounce your last name. All right.
My name is Elisa Kuznetsov, A-L-E-E-S-A-K-U-Z, N as in Nancy, E-T as in Tom, S-O-V as in Victor. I am the president-elect of the Minnesota Society of Professional Journalists. Our president couldn't be here today. The Minnesota Society of Professional Journalists strongly condemns the wrongful arrests of journalists Georgia Fort and Don Lemon for reporting on a church protest in St. Paul. Georgia Fort, as many have already said, is an Emmy Award-winning journalist who has paved the way for independent journalism here in Minnesota. As a founder of Black Press and the Center for Broadcast Journalism, and a former member of our board, Georgia is a pillar of our Minnesota journalism community. She has a passion for making the profession more accessible and has mentored and trained countless young journalists. We are alarmed by the escalating actions by the Trump administration that attack freedom of the press. Journalists not only have the right, but the responsibility to observe and report events in the public interest. It is not illegal to document a protest against the federal government. The fact that the protest took place in a church does not negate journalists' First Amendment right to report. The effort to punish independent reporting is an effort to weaken democracy. If Georgia and Don's cases proceed, it would seriously undermine both the freedom of the press and the rule of law. We urge the federal government to remember the importance of the First Amendment, The Minnesota Society of Professional Journalists has recorded several acts of violence against journalists from federal law enforcement in the last month. The failure to stop these acts sets a dangerous precedent for censoring the truth. The Minnesota Society of Professional Journalists will continue its commitment to protect press freedom and advocate for any journalists in our state who experience a First Amendment violation. Thank you, and we'll have a full statement posted on our website, mnspj.org, later today.
We're going to hear from our current Minneapolis NAACP president.
Good morning. My name is Cynthia Wilson, current president of the Minneapolis NAACP. And you've heard already what's been said. We definitely stand in solidarity with our journalist, and specifically Georgia Fort, as she has been an integral part of providing the news for the black community. That being said, I also want to say that what you're seeing now and what we're experiencing is a pivot away from what's happening with our democracy. And if we allow this to happen now, this is not a Republican, this is not a Democratic, this is not a black, white, as you already heard. This is a humanity issue. And what we're experiencing, you all, and you have to recognize it, even for the most people who are not even, brilliant or can't see clearly, this is blatant as it gets. Number 47 is out to be a dictator. And he is looking to take away all of our rights. Everyone who voted him in, he's voting you out. So what I would say, we have another election coming up. We need to prepare to vote, to get our voices heard, and to make sure that we're doing what's necessary to make sure our democracy stays a democracy and not a dictatorship. That being said, we're standing in support of Georgia Fort, and we're asking that she be released immediately. And at that point, I'll turn it back over to the hands. Thank you.
We've been talking about journalists being on the front line, and we see right now what's happening with Georgia, who's in federal custody. I got to say that one more time, because while we're here not in custody, she's over there in custody. But you all, many of you, know exactly what we're talking about because you experienced it. But I have someone here who is wearing a boot on his foot because he was shot by federal agents while doing his job as a journalist. So with that being said, I'm going to ask King Demetrius to come speak.
Appreciate y'all. I just want to let you all know how touched and moved I am by Georgia Fort and how she has always spoke power to truth. And like everyone said, she is an award-winning journalist. Let that sit right there. She has family, she has children who had to watch something as tomfoolery of this happening. Coming to her home in the broad daylight and trying to make like she is a criminal, like she did something that was totally off the Richter scale. Obama couldn't have did any of this, just so we clear. He wore a tan suit and America lost their damn mind. Journalists is being attacked on a day-to-day basis. We've seen Trump with his sycophants individuals who are basically discriminating on anybody. When you're seeing people being dragged, especially women, being dragged, being tear gassed, being pepper sprayed. When you're seeing a person discharging his firearm and saying, this is a B, right? After he kills and shoots her in her face. When you see an individual kicks a tail light, then several days later get gunned down, and there's no outrage, but yet you go back and the January 6th thing that happened, you didn't have no energy for them, but peaceful protesters who went into a church and called a spade for what a spade was, you put the immediate force on them. Wow.
And
you put the immediate force.
And the journalists who documented the incident.
The journalists who documented the incident that occurred and was doing their job, you immediately went after them. Georgia Fort indicated to 300,000 black women has lost their job. Now it's over 500,000 black women has lost their job since the administration has been in the White House. I want you all to understand something and understand something now. Our children will not forget your name. These ICE agents who are doing this here, and all these other individuals who's making preposterous statements, we see you. We see the individuals who's being real quiet. We see you. But trust and believe me, we serve a higher power that looks high, sits high and looks low. Trust me, they will not get away with this. The shooting me in my foot, I'm just grateful that I still have my foot. Some people been shot in their eyes is out, their foot, they having trauma. Just think about what's gonna happen to our children. Our children is watching this.
Yeah.
Who's gonna help us
Yeah.
with our trauma? I would say the words of what Sonia Massey say, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
Hallelujah.
And now we're going to have representatives from AAJA.
Hi, I'm Alex Chith, and I'm the president of our local Asian American Journalists Association chapter. And
Hello, I'm Deanna Pistono, and I am the secretary of AAJA Minnesota.
we just want to say that AAJA stands with other news organizations here today and calls for the immediate release of Georgia Fort and the dropping of charges against her. We are observers and documenters of what goes on in our communities, including the exercise of the right to assemble and protest. The Constitution says Congress shall make no law abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of people to assemble peaceably. The spirit of the Constitution, the same fundamental document that people bring up in a multitude of political discussions, is not upheld when journalists are arrested for observing and covering protests. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
We're going to hear from a couple other people. Brother Jelani from CARE, Minnesota.
Jaylani Hussein, Executive Director of the Council on American Islamic Relations. First and foremost, I want to take an opportunity just to tell the family of Georgia Fort that your mom is an amazing person.
Yes.
Not only that, the fact of the matter, we just spent the day with her yesterday. She was covering the press conferences and all of the different things that were happening. And that's who Georgia Fort is. And what they did today is they inched her name to the unerasable history books for generations to know your mom because of her bravery and because of her standing up for her community. America, wake up. Truth is under attack. Our Constitution is under attack. And Minnesota is the front lines to defend democracy.
Yeah, it is.
They will not be able to arrest all of us.
Come on.
Because in this moment, this is a trap for them. They thought that we would be soft, but we are not. The attack on the press, the attack on peaceful protesters must end.
Yep.
And right now, as many of you probably have learned, not only is Don Lemon arrested, Georgia Fort is arrested, but also two other civil rights leaders in Minnesota arrested, Jamel Lundy and Troy Heron Cruz. Two people that Minnesota knows, and many of you know, who have stood up tall for their community. And today they are being targeted for standing up for their community.
Yeah.
Shame on America,
Shame.
and shame on the Trump administration.
Shame.
But this is something that is interesting to say to all of you, is that they started out by targeting my community, the Somali American community. It didn't stop there. They took Renee and Alex Preddy. It didn't stop there. They went and targeted our civil rights leaders, Nakima Levy Armstrong and Chantel Allen. It didn't stop there. They went for our journalists, Georgia Fort and Don Lemons. And I want you to know something, America. It has always been the black community in this country that has stood tall and have paid the highest price for all Americans. For all Americans. And in this moment is two black journalists who are taking it for all the journalists in America. I have a message for the journalists in this country. Stop pandering to this administration. Stop giving them the voice that they don't need.
Come on.
You have allowed them to create headlines that are false and lies. They are lying to the American public about everything that is happening. And you have allowed for them to get away with lies every single day.
Yeah.
It is time to stand up. If you didn't stand up for the Somali American community or our civil rights leaders, you should stand up for your colleagues in journalism. In this moment right now, we are demanding justice, a swift justice. And I call upon the judges and the people in the courts of America. They are coming for you next. Yeah. It is stand for you to uphold the law and the Constitution of the United States of America. This moment will pass, and we will be better for it. We're in the fight. We're not leaving the fight. And I'm going to let you know we are winning, because what they did to Georgia Fort will not stand in any American court system or to Don Lemons. So I ask every single one of you in this moment, be outraged, but be organized. And we are expecting people to show up here at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock to stand up for our brothers and sisters right now who are being detained unjustly, all because they stood up for us, but most importantly, they stood up for the Constitution of the United States. Today's a dark day in American history, but tomorrow we will define what that history will be by Americans standing up for journalism in this country. For far too long, many of you have been kicked out of the White House. You have allowed for that to happen, the lies to come out. But I'll tell you something about Minnesota. God chose us to carry the burden of America and to fight for justice. And it's not by accident that they took Georgia Fort, because she's an amazing journalist. Not only did she care deeply about her community, but she went to become an independent journalist, award-winning. And she is one of those people that many of you will learn about her. She's passionate, she cares deeply about this community, and I have seen her work every single day. We're proud of you, Georgia. We're proud of her family. We're proud of Don Lemon. We're proud of all the people that they are arresting, because all they're doing is inching their names into the books of history for many to remember the courage that Georgia had, the courage that Don Lemon had, the courage that Nekima had, and Chantel, and Jamel, and Terry Hearns. And we say to all of them, we will fight for your justice by any means necessary.
Okay. I'm going to bring up Professor Dr. Uhuru Williams, Brother Williams.
Thank you. Uhuru Williams here for Scholars for Justice. My friends, we're here today because something fundamental is at stake. And I want to be very clear about what this moment represents. In a democracy, the press is not a nuisance. It is not an inconvenience. It is not an adversary to be neutralized. The press is a constitutional safeguard, a guardrail, the fourth estate. It is one of the few institutions explicitly protected in the First Amendment, named alongside speech, religion, and assembly, because the founders understood something essential. Power left unexamined becomes power abused. As a historian, I can say without hesitation that when governments begin to treat journalists as threats rather than witnesses, we are entering dangerous territory. In moments of crisis, whether during the Red Scare, the Civil Rights Movement, or the protests against the Vietnam War, authorities have too often responded not with transparency, but with suppression. They have labeled dissent dangerous, they have framed security as subversion, and they have sought to control the narrative rather than confront the truth. History does not look kindly on those moments. In fact, my friends, the pursuit of truth is not a crime, bearing witness is not incitement, asking questions is not obstruction. It is the work of an independent press. It is the foundation of democracy. It is the bedrock of the principles that animate our democratic republic. And when they crumble, we all are in jeopardy. And I want to be clear, my friends. If an independent journalist can be detained for doing their job without clear and compelling evidence of wrongdoing, then we're not simply talking about one case, we're talking about precedent. And precedent is how erosion happens. It does not happen all at once. It happens incrementally.
Yeah.
First, it's the independent journalist. Then it's the credential reporter. Then it's the protester. Then it's the citizen with the camera phone. And before long, the line between public safety and suppression becomes blurred. We will not normalize injustice in this community because that would mean that we would be complicit in the erosion and destruction of our democracy.
Come on.
Because see, my friends, democracy depends on friction. It depends on challenge. It depends on individuals willing to question authority and institutions willing to withstand that questioning. That's the enterprise. That's what Georgia's work represented in this community. And when the state, in this case the federal government, uses its power to detain a journalist engaged in lawful reporting, it sends a chilling message not just to that individual, but to every reporter, to every scholar, to every witness, to every citizen, that we are no longer a democracy. My friends, they want to send a message to us that silence is safer. But silence has never been safer. Silence has only made injustice more durable. We cannot allow malicious or overboard prosecution, whether by intent or effect, to become the tool through which scrutiny is discouraged. The Constitution does not protect comfortable speech. It protects contested speech. It protects inconvenient speech. It protects the kind of inquiry that unsettles power. That was Georgia's work.
Yeah.
That's King Demetrius's work.
Yes.
That's your work.
Yes.
If we allow the detention of journalists to become normalized, we risk hollowing out one of the core pillars of democratic accountability. And once hollowed out, institutions do not easily recover. Let me conclude by saying today that a free press is not a luxury. It is not ornamental. It is essential to the infrastructure for democracy. If we care about truth, we must protect those who pursue it. If we care about justice, we must ensure that prosecution is never weaponized to silence scrutiny.
Yes.
And if we care about the future of this democracy, we must be vigilant in defending the freedoms that sustain it, even and especially when they're tested. This is a test. Georgia, Fort, and Minnesota are the canary in the coal mine. We intend that they'll become the phoenix that rises, not from the ashes, but from the bloom of resistance. Thank you.
We're here for two more people, and then we'll open it up for any questions that we have.
My name is Rod Adams. I'm the executive director of the New Justice Project Minnesota, and also a fellow Bush Fellow and New Sons Fellow and friend of Georgia Fort. The thing I want to say is, George Floyd, and also in this moment with the ICE occupation, thousands of media outlets descend upon Minneapolis. But before in between those times, who told our stories? Georgia.
Yes. Yes.
Who told the stories that no one else wanted to tell about black people? Georgia. Who told the stories that no one wanted to hear? Georgia. Because the truth is real, and Georgia is a truth teller.
Yes, she is.
And I'll say now, you can lock up a truth teller, but you can't lock up the truth. America has a problem. The first sign of a crumbling democracy is attack on free speech.
Come on.
The First Amendment is not only the reason folks can speak out freely, but it's the reason why I am a free person today. The First Amendment allowed people to protest slavery. The First Amendment allowed unions to form and to fight for the protections that we have today. Without the First Amendment, what are we? This country is supposed to be built on freedom and democracy. But I look around and I want to ask you, where is this freedom you speak of?
Yeah.
Where is this democracy you speak of? And if it does exist, who does it exist for?
Come on.
Georgia is a hero.
Come on.
Yes.
Georgia from community events to the midst of tear gas and flashbangs and rubber bullets flying around, Georgia was there. When no one else paid attention to Black Minnesota, Georgia paid attention. So we're going to stand up for Black press, and we're going to stand up for Black women.
That's right.
We find ourselves at the edge. And the only way in which we can push ourselves back is if people stand up. So if you're Republican, if you're Democrat, if you're Black, if you're white, if you're Asian, if you're Christian, if you're Muslim, this is the time in which we have to stand up against this federal administration that has made clear to us it does not care about our constitutional rights, it does not care about the Constitution, it does not care about the future of working people, it does not care about the future of the free press in this country. So the question remains, which side are you on? The question remains, how far will you go to protect the freedoms that you have been gifted, that my ancestors died for in this country? If it starts with Georgia, next is you. If it starts with Don Lemon, next is you. Our freedoms are not inherent. They were fought for. Blood spilled on this ground for our freedoms. So if we allow this to happen, who are we as a people? Who are we as a country? And to say that you believe in the American dream, if you're a Republican, Democrat, etc., and you do not stand up for Georgia Fort and the folks who are arrested today, I cannot believe you, and no one should. To give voice to the voiceless is the work of Georgia Fort. And until they are freed, this group of people and thousands more who you'll see later will be standing on the front line. Release Georgia Fort. Thank you.
Okay, we've got one more person who's going to speak. We're going to take questions, but in addition to free Georgia Fort, what we also are saying is we don't need her being charged at all. Get her out right now, but we're saying that these charges need to be dropped. They are fallacious, and this is absolutely, I'm going to call it what it is. TV, if y'all live, y'all live. This is some bullshit.
That part.
And real quick, before that last speaker come up, for anybody that's watching right now, I want you all to know that your silence is not going to keep you safe, right? It's not a coincidence that we're marking the 1 year since the Target boycott and when corporations started to abandon the Black community, right? After they stood firm in 2020. Me and Georgia had conversations about this, of how they've abandoned media, how they abandoned community. And we have to pose a question, where are the corporations? Where are the faith leaders? Where are the leaders, right? Even when it comes to music, I see people like Nicki Minaj pandering and playing with Trump. It's not a joke. You all are leading to the prosecution of journalists like Georgia Fort, like journalists like Don Lemon, and activists all over the world. And so if any of you are in support of these people, you have relationships with these people, call these people. Where is the church at to say this is not what we stand for, and you're not doing this in the name of God, and you're not doing this in the name of faith, right? Free Georgia Fort immediately.
Hi everyone, I'm the editor at the Minnesota Spokesman Recorder located in South Minneapolis. But before then, I worked with Black Press, and then I worked with the Center for Broadcast Journalism. Georgia was the reason and is the reason why I'm doing the work today. She paved the way for me. I worked directly with her. I was the first person that was hired by her. She saw something in me, and I saw something in her because she was the only person on the ground, in my opinion, when the uprising was happening. And I told her I'd write for her for free. And so we were on the ground together, and she was like, hey, you know, I'm just starting this company, but do you want to write for me part-time? And then that became full-time. I've worked on branding with Georgia. I've sat with her on many meetings, and I just refuse to allow any narrative to be painted about her that isn't positive, that isn't reflective of who she is. She is a leader. She's a truth teller. She's the most consistent person I know. She's very consistent since I first met her to today, and her goal has always been illuminating what needs to be illuminated, illuminating the truth, and standing by that, even if it means putting her in the position that she currently is today. Her value is courage, and so I'm following in her footsteps, even though this is not my lane right here, standing right here. But I think it's really important for us all to come together. I also think it's important that you really decide if your constitutional rights are worth putting your life on the line for, because that's the position that we're put in today. Georgia's amazing. I love her, and I know that her rewards will come back and overcome this because she's done nothing but fulfill her duties as a journalist, and as an amazing journalist at that. So I just wanted to come here and say that Georgia needs to be released, not for any other reason other than she just did her job, and she did it pretty damn well.
Yes, she did.
That the reason that was our last speaker is because that's Georgia's legacy. That's her legacy.
Yes.
When we talk about the work that Georgia Fort does in this community, she makes it so that people can come behind her
Yes.
and do this sometimes thankless job.
Yes.
Y'all need to be real about this. I don't see enough of my colleagues standing up and speaking out.
Listen.
And it's beyond frustrating, it's infuriating that we as journalists aren't taking this as seriously as it is. And maybe if you'd have listened to us a little bit longer, a while back, we wouldn't be here in the first place.
Right.
But now here we are. So we have, if you have questions.
What's the charges that they're actually bringing up against her?
Good question.
Good question, right?
Very good question. We do not know at this moment. We can only speculate, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah, it was just before, a little bit before 6 a.m., so there's very limited information.
Perhaps for Stanley, if they're comfortable, have you had a chance to speak with her since the page this morning?
She said at this time, no, for those of you who knew.
Have any of you guys had a chance to? Or
No, we have not. Not since the arrest.
Has the government contacted you at all?
Excuse me?
Has the government contacted you at all with any information?
No, we just know that there's a 1:30 hearing next door across the street.
And a 1 p.m. rally.
And I just want to say something. I want to give a special shout out to Ricardo Media. He's been out here putting a lot of work in as well. Tonight, with that as well. And also, people has went to his house and basically threatened his life. So his life is on the line as well. So all these sycophants individuals that's coming out there, independent journalists, we have to pay attention and be aware and have security around us at all time. And thank you all, everybody, for your work. But thank you, Ricardo.
How will this affect caucus coming up February 3rd?
How will it affect
Caucuses.
That's on y'all. Meaning that's the community's call as to how this affects caucus. I expect the community to do what the community does.
I will say it is time for everybody to organize.
Yeah.
On all political spectrums. We need everybody to show up and organize at every single caucus. When you show up, they can't talk about you. When you show up, you make a decision. So we need everybody to work and organize, and Minnesotans are doing that, so we need everybody to stand up. And I just want to add one thing. I know most of the local, I don't know the other reporters, I know most of the local reporters. I know you're incredible people. I hope today, as you talk about this, you have an opportunity for the first time not to be covering. You are being covered. So I hope you share to the public what it would mean if you were pulled out this morning at 6 a.m. and your institution was targeted, you were targeted. And to the national press, you do your job as well. But I know some of the local reporters, and I know how difficult it is because Georgia was not just an independent journal. She was among you in many of those corporate media.
Is. We're going to speak in present tense.
So
she is.
She is. So stand with her today and make sure that the headline is not the type of headline that you've allowed for a long time. The headline should be the First Amendment is under attack.
Come on.
That is what's happening. They're coming for the first, not the second, the first.
That's good.
Prior to these arrests, the judge refused to sign the warrant.
Exactly.
And then in a video, we see Georgia interacting with the agent saying, this doesn't look like a warrant that I should have tapped over my door for you. So do we know if the warrant was signed by a judge or was it legitimate?
I can't speak to that at this time, and in fact, that's probably a conversation better for when her attorney is ready to speak.
Yeah, I know Harry opened this up for questions, but again, I'll just reiterate to you all that it's very limited information. We want to encourage everybody to show up at the rally today at 1 p.m., and there's a hearing at 1:30 p.m., and that's where we'll learn a lot more information, so we encourage you all to come out for that as well.
Where is the rally location?
It's in front of the federal. building,
Right across
the street.
Right across the street.
Yep.
I do have a statement from her lawyer.
Okay. You would like? Yeah. You can come. Yeah, you can come and share the statement from her attorney. But here's the other thing, and I was actually going to close with this, but you can come up and share this. Right now, they thought they silenced Georgia Fort.
No.
Right now, there are thousands of people watching this live stream on Black Press.
That's right.
And they're going to be
So you ain't shut up nothing.
Nothing.
You didn't stop a thing.
Nothing.
You started something.
Listen.
Do you want to read the statement or no?
You want to do the statement?
It's so short.
Minneapolis Federal Building. I'm sorry for those of you asking. It's across the street.
Sorry, I just need a second. This is a statement issued on behalf of Georgia Fort by her counsel. My name is Becca. I am the senior producer with Georgia's newsroom Black Press, BLCK Press. Here's the statement. Georgia Fort, Emmy Award-winning independent journalist and NABJ Minnesota vice president, was arrested early today, January 30th, in connection with her news reporting on the anti-ICE demonstration at a St. Paul church service on January 18th. She is scheduled for an initial appearance at 1:30 p.m. today in federal court in Minneapolis, and we expect her to be released. Fort was present at the demonstration solely in a journalistic capacity, documenting an event of significant public interest and concern. The free speech and free press guarantees the First Amendment fully protect such news gathering and reporting activities as Fort's arrest is transparent, an unconstitutional attempt by our federal government to intimidate journalists and chill their protected speech. She will be vigorously defending herself against these charges. Again, that's a statement on behalf of Georgia Fort by her counsel.
Okay, at this time, we're going to close because there is a rally going on, and we want to make sure that we can also support Georgia during her hearing. Thank you all so much for coming out. Thank you for doing the work that you are doing. Continue to do the work.
You have been watching another very powerful press conference with a lot of speakers who either worked with or work with independent journalist Georgia Fort, who was arrested this morning. There are other news leaders, the Society of Professional Journalists, National Association of Black Journalists, Minnesota chapter representation was there, NAACP. Her family spoke, her daughter spoke, her husband spoke, all very powerful messages. Very powerful quotes that came out of there too. I believe it was Leslie E. Redman who said, quote, "If Jesus was here, he'd be flipping tables," end quote. Another said, quote, "Trump, this is not a game, this is real life," end quote. Many have been accusing the federal government of arresting Fort for, quote unquote, doing her job. The SPJ condemns the arrest. The NAACP condemned the arrest. We heard from an attorney representing Georgia Fort at the end there. We have not personally received that statement yet, so we can't verify it, but that was a member of Fort's press company, BLCK Press, who said that the attorney said that we expect her to be released after the 1:30 hearing in federal court. The attorney saying that they believe this arrest is an attempt to chill her First Amendment right to cover this as a journalist. And as a journalist, I have a number of questions. And it's important for people at home to understand that while you do have a First Amendment right which prevents the federal government from stifling your rights to cover these things and as a press, there are certain lines you can't cross, both literally and figuratively. if the police have tape up at a crime scene, you cannot go in under that tape and start filming whatever you like and asking questions, interrupting that investigation. You'll be arrested as a journalist. I'm not saying that's what Georgia did, but I'm giving you an example of how there are fine lines and nuances within the First Amendment. So the questions that I have is, was there a warrant to arrest Ms. Fort this morning? Was she a part of the protest or simply documenting it? Was she ever asked to leave the church is a question I would ask. In this case, you can't trespass as a journalist, and if you're asked to leave, you must leave. So I have a ton of questions to ask here about both sides, I guess, of painting the truth of this story. Again, was she with the protesters, or was she simply documenting what was happening in a private church? And if there is a state law that says you cannot go into a church while a service is going on in protest, it is against the law. So there are a lot of questions that still need to be answered right now as far as what she's being charged with, if she is facing charges, what she was arrested for, was there a judge-signed warrant, all that. There is a statement from Attorney General Pam Bondi, and she put this out on X. She says, quote, "At my direction, early this morning, federal agents arrested Don Lemon, Traherne Jean Cruz, Georgia Fort, and Jamel Liddell Lundy in connection with the coordinated attack on City's Church in St. Paul, Minnesota." I don't understand why the federal government is considering their protest an attack, maybe a verbal attack. Bondi also posting a video saying that under this administration, you have the right to worship freely and safely. And if you violate that right, quote, "we are coming after you." Here is a statement from the Minnesota journalism community on the arrests. So this includes the Minnesota Star Tribune, Minnesota Public Radio, the Minnesota Reformer, Minnesota Spokesman Reporter, and Center for Broadcast Journalism. This does not include KARE 11. Quote, "We strongly condemn the arrest of journalists Georgia Fort and Don Lemon, as well as any attempt to intimidate members of the press. The First Amendment recognizes the press as holding a distinct and protected role in our democracy. In America, we do not arrest journalists for doing their jobs. The Minnesota journalism community stands united in defense of press freedom and the essential role reporting plays in holding power to account," end quote.